Okay, at 6:30, we'll call the Sawyer County Board of Supervisors August 17, 2023 meeting to order, please. Madam Clerk, may we have roll call?
Dale Schlueter. Here. Kay Wilson. Here. Tweed Schuman.
Here.
Stacy Hessel. Here. Jason Weaver. Here. Mark Helwig. Here. Thomas Duffy. Here. Marshall Savitsky. Here. Brian Bizinet. Here. Michael Maestri. Here. Chris Rusk. John Righeimer. Here. Ron Kinsley. Here. Ron Buckholtz. Present. Ed Peters. Here. You have a quorum.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Madam Clerk, certification of compliance with open meetings law, please.
This meeting has been noticed to the public and news media as required by Section 19.84 of the Wisconsin statutes.
Thank you. Meeting agenda has been presented. Number 6, public comment. Okay. Public comment at this time will be given an opportunity to address the board. You will have 3 minutes. We need you to state your name and address as you come to the podium. I have several here, so we will start with Miss Linda Zelmer. Yep, you have 3 minutes, ma'am. Thank you, Stacy.
Linda Zilmer, resident of the village of Birchwood, but fourth generation Sawyer County property owner in Edgewater. The 3 items tonight I want to address you about is first the ARPA funds. The ARPA funds were intended for helping recover from the economic and social impacts of the pandemic. And after awarding a lot of money to broadband companies, rather than entertain other ideas for investing that money, the county applied it towards the cost for this building. So if I understand the change tonight, I'm glad to see that that is not now tied up in this building, and I hope at some future date it gets moved from capital projects to invested in the community. And second, with the opioid funds, I have shared information where I would hope the county would postpone acting on approving a budget until working with LCO to help maximize the impact. And lastly, I sent 2 emails to all county board members today regarding the 2 rezones that are coming to you for ratification tonight. My request was to not approve them due to a number of procedural issues that denied due process to the affected neighbors, as well as just some legal implications, especially with one of them. And I think tonight what you will hear from the rest of the people here is there are a lot of people here that didn't even know about the process that was going on and were not afforded the ability to express their concerns and defend their rights. So I hope by now maybe legal counsel has provided you an option to not approve these rezones this evening.
Thank you. Okay, next I have William Worm, please.
William Worm, resident of 15876 West Fun Valley Road. I'm coming to you because of the rezoning of the golf course. I was informed not by letter as everybody else was, but by a neighbor. There's many issues with it as far as property decrease, and the neighborhood is quiet with kids, and RV tourists and stuff like that would hinder the ability for the kids to be able to do what they need to do to have fun on that road. I moved here about a year ago from New York, and the property as it stands has not been taken care of in the last year. It's fences falling down, overgrown lawns. They're not taking care of the property as it stands. What makes you think that they would take care of the property if they turned it into what they wanted? That's all I have.
Okay, thank you. All right, next I have Mr. Gene Roush, please.
Hi, I'm Eugene Roush. I live at 6626 North White Lane, Stone Lake. I'm here for the rezoning of the golf course as well. My concern is that the last time I was at a meeting for that, there was a vote for non-approval. I wondered what has changed, that suddenly there's an approval. My concern is, along with the other property owners near the golf course, I do own property on the golf course. I'm concerned about how the effect it's gonna have not only on my property, but on the people who have settled here and moved here for the purpose of living in a quiet neighborhood of Hayward, and how that's gonna destroy their lifestyles. And I'm just concerned as to what will happen in the future. There are plans now. This is first A, then B, then C. I want to see what's going to happen if there's going to be any oversight, because plans have a way of changing as things go along. And if we're just allowing them to say they're going to do A, B, and C, what's going to happen? I also spend a lot of time in campgrounds. I have seen campgrounds that are well kept. I have seen campgrounds that have become trailer parks. And I want to know if there's going to be any restrictions on terms of rental in the park. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. All right, next I have Mr. Ken Mylander, please. Ken?
My name is Ken Millender. I live on
Millender.
16023 West Fun Valley Road. Personally, I'm not really against RV parks. I am against operating that deep well. Due to the fact is they've been dumping septic on the fields, right across the road from Doug's property. And so in the last couple of years, there's been a lot of scientific data stating that that's really harmful for people and the environment. For instance, my wife and I, we used to complain about all the frogs in the backyard. We could have had a hard time going to sleep. There ain't no frogs no more. Studies have found in Wisconsin, backed by spearheaded hydrologist Ken Bradbury of UW, he had found bacteria and forever chemicals in excess of 400 neighboring wells near field dumping sites. Within the last year, many press releases of scientific data from governments and nonprofit scientists have created awareness of the harm of forever chemicals to its people and an environment in which it lies. Proven studies state that PFAS, also known as forever chemicals, end up in the plants and the animals that consume them. Hundreds of medical issues are associated with consumption of the forever chemicals. According to EPA, there's over 9,000 of them. The soil on and surrounding the old golf course is very permeable. I've done my own test. It's old river coarse sand and rock. And it's subject to clogging, allowing the chemicals to travel much further than standard guidelines of household septic systems, and should not be allowed according to EPA studies, backed by scientific data and hydrologists that give recommendations. By allowing a high capacity well on said location of the RV park, it will spread the contaminants hundreds of miles, affecting every person and animal they're exposed to. You have to realize that there's an underwater spring that dumps into Little Spring Lake that freezes very few years. Retired and well-known hydrologist from Wisconsin, Ken Bradbury, retired last year, went public with press releases warning citizens that field dumping of septic waste has to be stopped due to the health hazards associated with bacteria and forever chemicals that end up in the wells and the water bodies. EWG scientists have confirmed the same information and warned its readers that high amounts of forever chemicals have been found in fish, unsafe to consume, even in Wisconsin.
You got 10 seconds, sir.
Okay, I just want to remind everybody, the mission statement: the Sawyer County Board of Supervisors will strive to provide excellent services and responsible leadership to protect and enhance Sawyer County citizens, businesses, and resources while preserving our unique heritage. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next I have Karen Locke. Karen Locke.
Karen Locke. I live at 15889W Fun Valley Road. And we were told in the first letter that, the first letter I received, that just because we didn't want it without facts and figures, that it didn't matter. We didn't have a voice. I think that's very unkind. Who's going to do the oversight, as someone else said? Who's going to keep things the way it's supposed to be? I know they voted down the first guy that wanted to do it. I think 160 on the Bass Lake side alone is way overblown. I don't know how in good conscience you can agree to do this. I don't know if there's other campgrounds with people living so closely around it as there is in this particular instance. I don't see that many campgrounds. I've never camped. It's supposed to be an RV park. That's one thing. They turn it into a trailer park. That's another. What's with Spring Creek that runs through it? Runs past my house. You don't think it won't affect the groundwater? What the sewage will do? I don't trust it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next I have Nina Gorley. Oh. Okay, she did, okay. Why don't we just, Lynn, why don't you read that for us? Okay, we're gonna read it, okay, Nina? Lynn's good, yep.
Says, I am against the campground. I worried about the noise, smoke from campfires, water, and sewer.
Okay, thank you. Then I have Mr. Dick Locke. Oh, and he again doesn't wish to speak. No? Okay. All right, are there any others for public comment? Anybody online, Alex? I don't have any answer. All right, we'll move on then to number 7. Consider approval of our meeting minutes, July 20, 2023. Ms. Hessel?
I'll
Sorry.
approve those.
Okay, I got
I mean, make a motion to approve. Thank
Second by Mr. Buckholz? Yes. Motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Buckholz to approve our meeting minutes of July 20, 2023 as presented. Is there any further discussion? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, number 8, zoning committee chair report. Mr. Buckholz.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The zoning committee will hold its monthly public meeting next Friday, August 25th at 8:30. Everybody notice that's a different day change due to a conflict with Sawyer County Record. The zoning department continues to see above average permits and general inquiries. Year-to-date land use permits are up 347, which is 20 land use permits over the same time last year. The highest permit numbers in the last 18 years. If trends continue on the zoning and conservation department, they will be requesting for additional staffing as part of the 2025 budget request. The Tourist Rooming House Ad Hoc Committee will hold its third meeting on Thursday, August 31st, 2023 at 10 a.m. in the Sawyer County Boardroom. For July, the committee approved 3 conditional use permits and recommended approval for 2 rezones, which I will turn over to Jay if there's no other questions.
Okay. Mr. Kozlowski?
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
All rezone petitions are legislative acts that require approval of the full county board. These rezone cases are specifically to address the designation of different zone districts. Furthermore, as part of a legislative act, rezones themselves cannot be tied with specific conditions. the intent of rezone cases do not specifically matter if they cannot be conditioned to a specific use. For rezone case 23-003, Larson Family Property Trust, this is in the town of Glenroot, parcel number 014-941-094205. It is 15.91 total acres, zoned forestry 1. The purpose of the request is to rezone the entire 15.91 acres from forestry 1 to residential recreational 2. The shoreline wetland district is not subject to be changed as part of this request. The applicant is seeking this to then record a county subdivision plat to create an additional dwelling unit on a separate lot. The preliminary plat has been received by the zoning department. The initial intent of the rezone was to potentially seek a conditional use permit for multi-dwelling development, but the current ordinance language itself contradicts itself, and it was the recommendation of legal counsel to not move forward with the conditional use permit. The inconsistencies within the zoning ordinance are still being addressed, and additional ordinance amendments will be proposed over the next several months to the zoning committee members. This property was recently subdivided last year into 4 separate lots. The applicant is now wanting to add 1 additional dwelling unit on lot 4. In order for this type of request to be allowed, the property would need to be either rezoned to residential recreational 1 or residential recreational 2. The RR2 zone district was selected in that there's additional RR2 land immediately adjacent to this. As per the Sawyer County zoning ordinance, this larger tract of land cannot be split into more than 4 lots within a 5-year time frame, which has occurred, unless it was approved by a county subdivision plat. The F1 zone district requirements would require a minimum of 5 acres and 300 feet of width along the lake, and this lake is called Little Round Lake. Thus, the zone district change is being requested. The Town of Glenroot Comprehensive Plan shows this area as shoreline residential, which still reflects the old lake classification system. Little Round Lake would have been as a Class 3 lake, which referenced in the Town of Glenroot's comp plan would require 40,000 square feet for 1 dwelling. If the property was rezoned to RR2, that would require 100 feet of width of frontage and 200 feet of depth. The preliminary proposed plat, proposing of a 2-lot split, would each have a lot consisting over 212 feet of frontage and 6 acres of upland area. The surrounding land area is mixed with F1 and RR2 property with single-family dwelling units, which the large majority of the surrounding land is owned by the applicant. With approval of the rezone, the preliminary plat would be subject to be heard at the September zoning committee meeting, with a final plat to be heard in October. There were 0 additional notification letters sent out to property owners in that, again, the applicant owns all land surrounding this. The Town of Glenroot approved the rezone request. It is a vote of 4-1 on July 10th. At the Sawyer County Zoning Committee public hearing, it was motioned for approval on a vote of 3-2 with the findings of facts that are attached within my staff report. That is all.
Okay, thank you, Jay. And we wanted Rebecca to speak as well?
She's
Or only
online, you
discussion?
certainly can.
Rebecca, are you there?
Hi, sir. I'm Mr. Chairman. Hello, everyone. I was contacted today because my understanding is the planning board members received correspondence raising some legal arguments and legal conclusions, some of which are concerning when we're talking about issues of due process and citizens' rights of due process being violated, or there's legal consequences to the county. So if you bear with me, I will try to give you a very brief overview of your due process obligations in this instance, in this rezone. And we're talking about a body of law that has about 300 years of jurisprudence to it when we're talking about due process. Due process is a term that is very easily thrown around, as we can see tonight, but it has a very specific legal definition. When we're talking about land use, procedural due process requires there be reasonable notice of governmental actions, an opportunity to be heard, and fair and impartial decision making. As Mr. Kozlowski explained, this came before the zoning committee with the public hearing, as it was originally intended to be part of the conditional use proposal. However, that cannot move forward. The rezone is an independent, standalone proposal. As Mr. Kozlowski indicated, it is a legislative act, which therefore cannot be conditioned or have any ties to it whatsoever. Under the law, an applicant is not required to explain why they want to be a lease. Certainly, oftentimes, it happens that an applicant will make that explanation because it makes the process go more smooth. It is not a legal requirement that an explanation be given with an accompanying legal application, which leads us to where we are tonight. And again, my understanding based on the correspondence was that due process was denied because what is in front of you tonight is not what was in front of me. And again, I apologize if I'm missing something only based off of the correspondence that you all received as well. And the argument being that there is a denial of due process because what appeared on the zoning committee agenda is not what appears on your agenda tonight. Specifically, that reference, again, my understanding, the reference to the subdivision plat on your agenda tonight was not included on the zoning committee agenda. That is irrelevant. It is irrelevant because you have to give due process notice of the action, the reasonable notice of the governmental action, which is the rezone, an opportunity to be heard, which is my question, and fair and impartial decision. That is the requirement for due process. Unfortunately, we have case law to support this position. In fact, we have a case from June of 2023 from the Wisconsin Supreme Court that reiterated that a rezone is a legislative act, and even went so far as to explain the extent of due process rights when we're talking about a legislative act. So we have very good guidance, and I'll just briefly read this to you again. I don't want to give you a master class in constitutional process, but this I think is very helpful. In order to establish violation of procedural due process, plaintiff must demonstrate both one, deprivation of a protected liberty interest, like liberty of property, by state action or action hearing, and that process received before that deprivation fell short of the minimum of the United States and Wisconsin Constitution. So we were talking about due process, a very specific analysis, and as it pertains to rezones and legislative actions, you must have a present. I lost it again. Reasonable notice of the government taken, the opportunity to be heard, and fair and impartial decision. And I think you have all of those here. So with respect to the Larson zoning application, I do not see any violation of anyone's due process rights. If there are other versions of due process claims, perhaps we could make better assessments if there were more specifics rather than just platitudes and saying the county is committing due process.
Okay, thank you, Rebecca. Yep. Okay, so I think she's advising us that we can legally proceed with this. Is that correct, Rebecca?
That's correct, sir.
Okay. Yes, Ms. Hessel.
I would like to make a motion to approve the rezone 23-007, or 003, I'm sorry.
003. Okay, I got a motion by Ms. Hessel to approve. I'm looking for a second. Mr. Righeimer?
I'll second.
Okay. Motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Righeimer to approve rezone 23-003. In discussion. Is there any further discussion? Okay, Madam Clerk, may you set us up for an electronic vote, please. Motion is to approve rezone 23-003.
Mr. Savitsky, could you cast your vote? What was that? Could you hear
Marshall,
us?
can you hear us?
He's muted.
I think you're muted, sir.
I take that as a yes. I am going to push the green button.
Okay.
Mr. Maestri, could you cast your vote?
Yes.
Okay, I will close the voting. And it passes 11-3 with no votes from Mr. Kinsley, Mr. Buckholz, and Ms. Wilson.
Okay, motion carries. All right, Jay, we have another rezone, sir?
Yes, this is for rezone case 23-004 Pinewood Properties LLC. This is in the town of Bass Lake. It is the north one half of section 4, part lot 1 of CSM 4022, parcel 002-940042110. It is 58.84 total acres, zoned agricultural 1 and commercial 1. This property is located at 15968 Fun Valley Road. I do want to reiterate to the board that statutory requirements as well as the bylaws of the zoning committee require separate notification to property owners within 300 feet of a subject rezone request. These requirements were met in that the subject requested area, a 300-foot perimeter, additional notifications were sent out to those property owners. If property owners beyond that 300 feet did not receive separate notification, that's because we didn't send them, because where do you end up drawing that line? We go by the statutory requirements to send those additional notifications. The town board had also heard this case as part of their town board requirements for posting of a town board meeting, and it was heard at the zoning committee meeting as a class 2 public notification. The purpose of this request is to rezone all agricultural 1 upland area, excepting that commercial 1 zone district area, leaving approximately 53.17 acres to be rezoned to residential recreational 2. With the final ratification of a zone district change to the RR2, there is an approved conditional use permit for a 160-site RV park resort. The Shoreline Wetland District overlay is not subject to change as part of this request. If the rezone is denied, the CUP would not be able to be processed, in that the CUP, the conditional use permit, holds the condition that the rezone is ratified and approved. This property consists of the old Hayward National Golf Course. This golf course has been out of operation for approximately 10 years. A majority of the existing trees on the property have already been removed, and the likelihood of this ever being converted back into a golf course would be very difficult, and that the greens and fairways have left to go to seed. You would have to completely reconstruct this golf course. The nearest RR2 zone property in relation to this is immediately adjacent to the southwest. It is a 17.36 acre parcel on the corner of Fun Valley Road and Highway 27. There are also a few RR2 zoned properties within that area as well. Even though this property is currently zoned agricultural 1, according to the Natural Resources Conservation Society Web Soil Survey, this soils would not be included as part of prime farmland or farmland of statewide importance. NRCS further lists these soils as having severe limitations and choices of plants that require very careful management, or both. The town of Bass Lake shows this area as a generalized existing parks and recreational land use as per their town comprehensive plan, with a future land use category described as parks and recreation. Per the town comp plan of Bass Lake, existing land uses under park and recreation lands under privately owned lands may include golf courses, campgrounds, marinas, shooting ranges, etc. The existing surround use outside of this area is woodlands and medium density residential. Several previous requests for rezones and conditional use permits have been heard over the last few years. This request is now slightly different in that the rezone request is for land located just in the town of Bass Lake and not in the town of Hayward. Furthermore, the property owner has now done an additional certified survey map where they lotted off an additional 14.34 acres on the east side of the property. This newly created lot is not part of the rezone request and is to remain agricultural 1 zoned. By doing this lot split, any campsite would need to be an additional 75 feet from his own property line. In essence, that nearest campsites to the east of this property would be 375 feet from the nearest resident. Again, that would be specifically onto the east side. The recently split 14.34 acre parcel may eventually become a perimeter golf hole or holes, but that would require an additional conditional use permit, as the existing CUP for the main golf course has been discontinued. Previous request for this type of rezone has been approved at the town level and zoning committee level in the past. However, as part of the last rezone case in 2022, it was denied at the county board level under a supermajority vote, as that the adjacent property owners had submitted a petition to protest on the proposed rezone, which required a 3/4 vote by county board. There were 13 additional notification letters sent out to property owners within 300 feet of the subject rezone request parcel. One of those comment letters was submitted back in objection. The town of Bass Lake approved the rezone request at their town board meeting on July 10th. At the Sawyer County Zoning Committee public hearing on July 21st, it was recommended for approval of a vote of 4-1. The findings of facts is attached to my staff report. If there are any other questions, I can certainly help try to answer those at this time. Again, the board and the comments you hear, should be addressing specifically the rezone, the conditional use permit for the operation of the campground, and the 160 sites was handled at that public hearing process through the conditional use permit. As this board, you really need to be looking at the rezone case itself. But yes, they are tied together.
Okay, did you also want Rebecca to speak on this prior to?
I don't
I
see
have
the
her listed
reason
here
that
to-
she would need to, but it is up to you, Mr.
Rebecca,
Chair.
did you want to comment here or not? I know.
I didn't have any specific comments.
Okay. Thank you.
I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, Ms. Hessel.
I would like to make a motion to approve the rezone 23-004.
Okay, I got a motion by Ms. Hessel to approve this rezone request. I'll find it here right now. Is your light on, sir? Or is it just for me?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Buckholz.
I second that motion.
Okay, I got a motion by Ms. Hessel, seconded by Mr. Buckholz to approve the rezone. Discussion. Is there any further discussion? Anyone online for discussion? Alex? No? Okay, if not, Madam Clerk, can you set this up for electronic vote?
Voting is open, green for yes, red for no.
Motion is to approve the rezone request.
Mr. Savitsky, could you cast your vote?
Yes, in favor.
Mr. Maestri?
Yes.
Mr. Duffy, yours hasn't registered yet. Could you give that one more shot? Okay. And this passed 12-2 with nay votes from Mr. Kinsley and Mr. Schleter.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to number 9, Public Safety Committee Chair Report, please. Mr. Buckholz.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Sawyer County Public Safety Committee met on August 3rd. The Sheriff's Department report, Communication Center report. Mrs. Rapinski provided an overview. There are 3 full-time positions open in dispatch. Applications are coming in. Communication with the Sawyer County Ambulance Service regarding town of Edgewater townships are continuing, and efforts are being made to provide the most reliable and effective response as possible. As of 6/28/23, there have been 10,410 total calls in dispatch. The new dispatch headsets have arrived and will be installed soon. The patrol report, a written report, was provided by Lieutenant Rapinski, identifying the total CAD calls and the breakout of calls by nature of calls. A breakout of calls by month nature was also included. Lieutenant Rapinski advised that there have been a total of 30 crashes with 4 fatalities to this date this year. The jail report was given. Chief Sedera gave the report. July was 83.41 with 1 individual on Huber privileges. The inmate unemployment is at 82.6. And Chief Sedera also advised that the female inmates have returned to the Sawyer County Jail last week. The child support written was provided, identifying 1,132 open cases. and a total June support due was $1,121,602.59. The total was collected was $802.408.84. The ambulance report for billing, the report was reviewed by Mr. Fremmel. They run a total to date of 1,158 compared to 1,089 in 2022. The crews rendered aid to 33 emergency calls over the fourth day of July weekend. Coverage over the Muskie Fest and LWC went smooth. The department is almost full staff with the community CPR trainings have been conducted. The Hayward High School is conducting an EMR class this year. Mr. Alvarado reviewed the highlights of the ambulance billing report and the same report that goes to the Finance Committee each month. The criminal justice report, I'll leave that to Mr. Alvarado. That ends my report this year.
Okay, thank you, sir. Any questions, comments for public safety? All right, if not, we'll move on to number 10, Public Works Committee Chair Report. Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The maintenance department has worked very hard to get us in this building. They've built a lot of the furniture. They've done a lot of odd and end stuff that you don't see all the time, but they've done a lot to get us here. And I believe they have done a very nice job. The airport will not get a relay of, the runway will not be redone until approximately 2025. And the highway department is busy cleaning up the storm damage yet. They figure they're about 50% done. We still have a vacancy for a driver. They had a public meeting for a Highway C bridge over the Coudray River. And the price of salt sand has gone up. We'll be paying about $26,000 more this year than we did last year because of the price increase. Highway S has a new overlay on it. And that concludes my report.
Okay. And courthouse remodeling update? Is that gonna come in your report, Andy? Okay, we'll do that.
Handle that.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. Any questions for Public Works? All right, moving on then. Number 11, Land, Water, Forest Resource Committee Chair Report. Mr. Peters.
Okay,
There you go.
is it
You're
on?
good. Yep.
Okay, thank you. Committee met on July 12th, and we had a report from the Register of Deeds. Activity on real estate transfers is down due to high interest rates. The only event that we noted was the county fair, which is going on currently. From land records and county surveyor reports, there were 177 transfers and 17 certified survey maps processed in July. And the survey crew is continuing to work on Highway 70, replacing corners, corner markers in that area in Draper and Winter. For the Sawyer County Forestry Department, under recreational trails, Alliance crews have been working repairing trails, and they're attempting to get grant funding to help repair LCO trails. Rerouting has become harder to do as property ownership changes. However, we don't have an update on what the storm last night might have done to the trail improvements or repairs. County forestry year-to-date is moving along well, $1.5 million. And the Sawyer County Forestry Certification Audit was passed with flying colors this year, and we congratulated them on that. We also, under zoning and conservation department, the zoning department continues to see above average workflow, and permits are up approximately 30% each year over the last 3 years, and this was referred to in the zoning committee report. The USDA report indicated that there is a possibility of drought assistance for Sawyer County agriculture. It was concentrated in Douglas and Bayfield counties, but we are adjacent. The LCO report, meeting with the Trails Alliance to discuss maintenance of trails and signage. And we do have a resolution to authorize purchase of some land for trail right-of-way under consideration this evening. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Peters. Mr. Alvarado, you want to take that resolution authorizing this purchase, please?
Yes, we were contacted by the representative of the Eris H. Miles Family Trust, who owns a piece of property adjacent to Highway 63 at 63 and Thanum Road. It is a former railroad bed that currently is a ATV and snowmobile trail. The family trust is just trying to divest of their property and close out the trust, and they offered the county the opportunity to buy that strip of land, approximately 3.55 acres, for a total purchase price of $500. Given that it's used for a trail, and I think the county knows the history of that rail bed and its use and potential use as a trail. The presentation to the committee, we recommended acquiring the parcel. It's fairly low risk for the $500 it's been offered us to.
Okay, and where would the $500 come from?
Out of the forestry budget.
Forestry budget. Okay, pleasure of the board. Mr. Helwig.
I would make a motion to approve purchasing of the land for trail right away.
Mr. Duffy?
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Mr. Helwig, second by Mr. Duffy to approve, authorizing the purchase of land for the trail right-of-way. Is there any further discussion? Mr. Schleter?
Eris H. Miles.
Eris H. Miles. Okay. Is there any further discussion? Alex, anyone online? No? Okay, Madam Clerk, you want to set us up to vote?
Voting is open. Yes is green and no is red. Could I collect the vote for Mr. Maestri, please?
Motion is to approve.
Would you repeat that, sir? Yes. Yes. And Mr. Savitsky?
Yes.
Okay, I'm closing the voting. And it passes 14-0.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, thank you, Mr. Peters. Appreciate that. Moving on to number 12, Health and Human Services Board Chair Report. Mr. Schleter.
Thank you. We met last Tuesday night. Health and Human Services is preparing for an all-staff session on September 12th. Health and Human Services will be closed from 1:30 to 4 o'clock on that day. The hang on a second. Oh, I'm sorry. The WIC programs for Polk County, Washburn, Burnett are merging. The benefits being including saving time and money and staff. Sawyer County is merging too in there. Better phone coverage, more hours available online. Expertise, it's just a win-win all the way around. This is going to be a good thing. Fentanyl awareness activities were discussed in both 2021 and 2022. Sawyer County recorded 9 overdose deaths with fatalities. 2023, also 9 and 2 more potentials as soon as the coroner's report is done. Almost 90% of the marijuana confiscated last year had fentanyl in it. That's not a good thing, people. That's just people who are addicted. I'm sorry, no. Okay, fentanyl awareness activities were discussed. Ideas were passed around, and Health and Human Services and Public Safety will continue to get the word out. 2023 opioid settlement budget has been presented and included in, hang on a second again. Included. We approved the proposed use of the settlement money and passed it on to the full county board for budget considerations. And that's it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Slater. Any questions for Health and Human Services? No, thank you. All right, we'll move on then to number 13, Finance Committee Chair Report. Mr. Kinsley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Sales tax distribution money, the tax that we're receiving continues to be very high. That's a benefit for us. Budget updates, we started talking about the budget. It'll be brought in the month of September, the full budget to us, all broke down to the Finance Committee to look at it before it comes to the full county board. Capital improvements are talked about. The 2024 budget. June investment report was reviewed. Ambulance billing systems was reviewed for some odd reason, which is good. The ambulance money that we're receiving in when they're billed, it keeps on going up, which is great. We have some work to do with the ARPA funds and opioid funds tonight, and a courthouse budget expansion model update.
Okay. Mr. Kinsley, what was the June investment number? Was that a positive number for us?
Very much so, yes.
Thank you. All right, and we have some action items here. Letter B, resolution amending use of ARPA and bond funds. Mr. Alvarado?
Yeah, the resolution in front of you relating to ARPA and bond funds is to adjust the sources and uses of those dollars. Previously, as been noted, we had applied the remaining ARPA funds to the courthouse expansion remodeling project, which would lower the amount we were going to borrow. And then last month, we finalized the bonding to fund our 2003 and 2024 capital improvement projects, the final piece of financing for the courthouse, and refinancing the land purchase for the county forest last year. There are some rules with when you bond funds, how quickly you can spend them, or how far back, I should say, you can go for purchases you've already made. So we had already made some 2023 capital improvement purchases, which worst case scenario, we'd have essentially a ding in our audit for having applied bond funds after we made those purchases. So this resolution, what this does is take ARPA funds that were previously designated to the courthouse expansion and applies it to the 23 capital improvement purchases. I laid out a sheet that summarizes this for you. So $191,451 of those. So those ARPA dollars would come out of being applied to the courthouse expansion and be applied to these expenses. And then the ARPA funds that were not going, ARPA funds go there, and then we would put more bond proceeds to the courthouse expansion project. So overall, it does not increase the amount we borrowed or we spent. It's just flip-flopping the uses for these purchases.
Sure.
So that we are in compliance with the bond proceeds.
What was the amount of ARPA funds that we had dedicated to the courthouse expansion? But it was significantly more than 191, right?
Oh, it was 1 point, I can look.
1 million something?
Yeah.
Okay.
1.3 sounds right to me.
Okay. All right. So, Mr. Alvarado, you are recommending then that we approve this resolution amending the budget?
Yes, this amends, because both of these, the ARPA funds and the bond funds were both approved by resolution. We've prepared a resolution to switch this.
Sure.
The use.
Mr. Kinsley, how did the Finance Committee vote on this?
Finance Committee approved it, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, pleasure of the board. Mr. Hellwig.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, Ms. Hessel?
No, I believe Mr. Buckles. Oh,
Sorry.
I'll second that.
Okay, motion by Mr. Hellwig, second by Ms. Hessel to approve the resolution amending use of ARPA and bond funds. This affects the budget, Mr. Alvarado, so it'll be a 2/3 vote?
Nope, it doesn't change the amount to spend. The money's already budgeted.
Okay.
So we're majority.
So, Madam Clerk, you want
We
to set us
will-
up for voting? The motion is to approve.
To approve, and the voting is open, so cast your votes. Mr. Maestri?
I approve, Oh, yes.
Mr. Savitsky?
Yes.
Mr. Savitsky?
Yes.
Mr. Savitsky? 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 Mr Okay, all votes are in, and it passes 14-0.
Okay, motion carries. Thank you. All right, letter C, Mr. Kinsley, we'll let our Health and Human Services staff
Yes,
address this.
they gave a nice presentation to the finance committee, and I'll turn it over to Mr. Opera.
Okay, opioid settlement proposed budget.
Yeah, in front of you is the budget, but before we get to the budget, I will turn it over to Joyce from Public Health to give us the presentation on what we're looking at doing.
Sorry, I didn't realize that.
Great. Thank you, Joyce.
Good evening, Joyce Knowlton from Sawyer County Public Health, and I have Jessica here. She's gonna give you some handouts. I'll try to go through this really quickly because I know some of you have already seen this once, but just a quick presentation about the fentanyl awareness projects that we're doing in Sawyer County right now. So, really quickly, in the United States last year, approximately 110,000 people died from fentanyl overdose. To put that in perspective, that is the equivalent of one jumbo jet airliner crashing every single day in the United States. In Sawyer County, we are currently second in the state for per capita overdose deaths. When we met with the Health and Human Services Committee, the number was 9 for this year. It is now at 11, and we have 2 more that are suspect. So for each year in 2020, 2021, 2022, we had 9 deaths. This year we're at 11 and more likely 13, and we're not all the way through the year yet. Responding to overdoses in Sawyer County has been a real burden to EMS and law enforcement. They are spending a lot of time and a lot of calls responding to overdose cases, and in at least one case have not been able to respond to a medical emergency. A law enforcement officer had to actually take a child who needed immediate attention to the hospital in his vehicle. So Sawyer County Public Health conducted a gap analysis several months ago. I believe that you've all been provided with that information. But one of the main things that we found with fentanyl was a lack of awareness. Even though it is an issue here in Sawyer County, there are a lot of people that just don't know about fentanyl, and they don't understand what it is. They don't understand that there's a way to stop an overdose. And so we realized that education is really going to be key for Sawyer County to start to get a handle on this problem. We've talked to the public, we've talked to the nurses, we've talked to community members, even in jail interviews, people that I've interviewed in jail, they know about fentanyl, but they don't realize that it can be in marijuana, that it's even showing up in vapes now.
Joyce, in your gap analysis, did you include Lacoudere in that?
Yes, we did.
I thought you did.
Narcan is the immediate response to the overdose in the county. We became a Narcan direct distributor along with Bajiki, who has been one for a while. We offered some training through the Chamber of Commerce and were so overwhelmed by the response that we had to create online training. To date, over 200 people have taken that training, and we've given over, well now after the last week, I would say it's probably well over 150 boxes of Narcan. And that's a good thing. If you think about it, the law enforcement officers in the last couple of years have given Narcan 56 times. So imagine how many more that we could have on that number. So we created a Sawyer County Fentanyl Awareness Team. We have all law enforcement involved from Sawyer County to city and towns of Hayward, the LCO Police Department. We have LCO Bajiki Health and Human Service or Health Center, and also the LCO Wellness Court, as well as other community members and a community member who lost her daughter to fentanyl, who has come forward and been willing to talk to the community about that process and what happened. So our slogan is, "Don't be fooled by fentanyl, your future depends on it." And our goal is to raise awareness in our community to the risks and dangers of illicit fentanyl and to provide the knowledge to help save lives. Let's start by getting that number down. We have come up with a pretty intense campaign. You may notice already there are billboards up. We have road signs that we are handing out. We are working with the local newspaper and radio stations, and we're also working with other counties on a video that would show at the gas stations when you pump gas. The community member who lost her daughter has created a nonprofit called Forever Joy, and this is the sustainability part of this campaign. So once we can get the push out there and people actually start to talk about this, she is setting this up so that it is a resource for local people. It's a local resource. It'll also provide state and national resources that people can look at, but it's also for us here in the community. So we've put together a presentation. So far, we have given it at LCO school to the in-service teachers and today at winter school for in-service. It provides fentanyl education, Narcan education, the parent story, and then Sheriff Mrotek also talks about the law enforcement side of this. The big thing for us is the kids. So like I said, we have put it to the teacher in service. Hayward, we will be presenting to the student body for middle and high school. LCO and Winter are both waiting for approval to do that. But we're also going to be available to do it in communities, at town hall meetings, in churches, wherever it is needed. Whoever wants to hear it, we're willing to give it. We also participated in the Muskie Fest parade and handed out information. We were also at the National Night Out at both LCO and Hayward. And we have a whole mess of events that we're scheduled for. These are just some of the events that we have scheduled for, to be on the radio, to get our advertising out there, and to present to the student bodies.
Are you all at the Sawyer County Fair?
We were not at the Sawyer County Fair. No, we were not. I know, and that was
Still time,
yeah. And as far as the support side of this goes, so we found a program called School Pulse, and what School Pulse does is it's a text program, and it gives kids support, but not only kids, whoever their caretakers are, whoever their guardians are. So it could be mom and dad, it could be a grandpa or a grandma, it could be an aunt or an uncle. But if I'm an aunt and I'm taking care of my nephew, and he's just like, I'm past the point, I don't know what to do with him anymore, I can contact them and say, this is what he's doing and I don't know what to do. And they have licensed professionals sitting on the other end almost 24/7 that are willing and able to talk to me, that are trained. They know what to tell me what to do. But it's also for the kids. So the program that they currently have, they receive texts, they receive information from kids. My brother is using drugs and my mom and dad are fighting and I don't know what to do. Or I am thinking about killing myself. And so this is a place for them to reach out. What we're hoping is that this helps solve some of those small problems before they become big problems. It gives them somewhere to go. Then there's also Kids Pulse. Kids Pulse is for the little kids. School Pulse is for age 13 up through 12th grade. Kids Pulse is for the little guys. And so let's say when they're getting on the bus, there's an emoji system and there's just computer screens set up throughout the school. And as they're getting on the bus, it asks them, how do you feel? And if a bunch of them are saying sad or mad or angry, the school knows as a whole that they have something that they need to deal with. But let's say the kid does say angry, it will automatically pop up there and say, would you like to talk to somebody? So it gives them a little bit of instant resource. We also have Lambie Learns. That would be handed out through CPS and through law enforcement. It's a little bunny, and there's a story that comes with it. And this is for little kids, and it really is a story about coping, that this is not your fault, that if you feel bad, you should tell someone. It gives them a place to go and makes them feel cared for. And then we're also working to activate our MRC volunteers, our Medical Reserve Corps. We think this is a perfect project for them to be out in the community sharing this information and training the public. And last but not least is treatment. We know we need treatment. We all know we need treatment. There's not enough money, but not only that, we can't get the staff. So both Bajiki and North Lakes have been trying to hire staff and can't get them there fast enough. So at the very least, the main thing we're going to do to try to fill that gap, at least for a short period of time, is we have hired a peer recovery specialist. And we're hoping to have 2, and they would essentially be a battle buddy. So let's say, for me, let's say you have someone that's coming out of jail. They want to get into treatment, but they have to wait for 6 to 8 weeks just to get in to talk to someone, because that's the realism of what's going on right now. This person can help them hang in there. This person has been through it, has lived experience, has experienced addiction, and has been sober for a long period of time. And the person that we've hired is a local person. I think he will be well known to a lot of people in the community, and that is the only way that we can fill that gap at this point. I'm gonna pass out the budget, because this last part, what you'll notice is, remember that we got the TAD grant to work on the recovery court. Then we also just received a grant, a law enforcement grant. So $10,000 of it is for training for law enforcement about opioids and the stigma of opioids and medical assisted training. But it's also for a law enforcement deflection program. And then we also received money for, there's 3. I lost my train of thought there. It's the jail, there's 3. I'm sorry, I'm missing one. I seriously cannot remember what it is. But, so we're trying to make this an all-encompassing program to the best of our ability. Is what we're trying to do. We really think it needs to start with the education, get it out there, get people talking about this, and make this a community fight. This isn't just for law enforcement and EMS and health professionals to deal with it. This is for all of us as a community to stop this. We don't want this to take over our community. We like it too much.
Yeah. Joyce, is there any money in this budget for law enforcement, maybe to do drug patrols or something that would intercept the fentanyl before it gets to our community?
No, there is not. There's certain restrictions to what that opioid settlement dollars can be spent on.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so that's why we went for the different law enforcement grants for the other stuff, because you can only spend it on so much. And if you look at this budget, the kind of orange shade, that is actually not coming from opioid settlement dollars. That is all money that would be coming from grants that we have received at Health and Human Services. Okay, in the blue, that is the law enforcement grants that we are applying for or have already received. And then the opioid settlement is in the center in the gray. So you can see the total dollar amount that we're requesting. And Andy, I don't know if you want to talk about the totals and all of that.
Who's made friends with me.
I think
So, like Joyce was saying, the middle column is the opioid settlement, and just to summarize that, we've received 121,905 is what we have. Actually, it's more than that. We have 121,905 in our account, plus 4,858 that came in last week, and the 26,486 should be here any day now. So we have all that money in our opioid fund within the county, and then we still have 400,000 yet to come out of that settlement. There's another settlement that's from the distributor settlement. We signed off on the retailer settlement a couple months ago, but we just have not received any disbursement information on that. But we expect that'll be, someplace in the $15,000 to $20,000 a year annual if they disperse it in the same way they disperse the distributor settlement. And so have the presentation to show you what the plan is, and then the resolution is to take essentially the portion of opioid dollars that they have budgeted here and approve spending that, and then to establish an opioid budget to put that money in so it can be spent. And that's an amendment of the budget because while we have the money in the fund, we didn't have an opioid budget that's been approved to actually incur expenditures.
Ms. Hessel, sorry about that.
That's okay. I'm used. So first of all, I want to applaud the efforts of you and your group that are doing this. Second, I heard you say that you presented at LCO. Have you presented to the tribal board to see if they would match funds?
No, we have not. We just started doing this presentation, and we actually felt that it was the most important to get it in front of those schools first,
Mhm.
but just timing wise.
Sure, I would just,
Yeah.
I would encourage that effort as well.
I appreciate it. Good idea.
Okay, Mr. Helwig.
Did you say that you are not presenting or gonna be at the fair?
We are not. Our bad,
You're bad?
our bad.
You can give it to K9. They'll be at the fair. They're at the fair all day Saturday if you give them your information.
Mr. Righeimer.
For the time frame of the 465,000, what is the time frame of that? So that's the budget, that's the money. What's that, how far is that expected to go? How long?
465,000? Oh, of
That's
all
the-
of this?
Is it a year or
This
is
is
it?
for 1 year.
For 1 year.
1
So
year.
after that 1 year, what happens then?
Well, we need to see what the effect is and where we can go next. So in 1 year, then it won't be about this big push to get everybody aware of fentanyl. Then it's going to be, okay, what's
So
next? Is it-
hopefully there's less at that point.
Right.
Can I add on to that? I mean, and Stacy kind of mentioned, so in the gap analysis, LCO was included in that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And I guess you said you haven't presented to the tribal board. Now, I don't know if this number is correct, but around 478,000 did LCO receive for opioid? And I know it's under different restrictions that we have, but.
Right, have not received that yet, but it's.
I mean, I don't know what the protocol is for this, but if it's just presenting to that board or to work as, I mean, you're doubling the money almost at that point. I mean, and to your point, you know, intercepting and I don't know who, is that just presenting or is that Andy talking, or how do we mutually go at it together, because it's.
We'll probably have a joint meeting, huh? with
Yeah.
LCO.
Are you and Jess collaborating with LCO and Bashiki Wellness? And-
We are, and they sit on this fentanyl awareness team with us. And so Marie out at Bajiki attended one of the presentations and had very high regard for it. But we also have what's called a prevention coalition. It's the We Want to Live Well Prevention Coalition. And there used to be two in Sawyer County, one for Sawyer County and one for LCO. And we've combined those two coalitions into one. So we are working together. That coalition is just getting off the ground. So actually the next meeting is to discuss what their objectives and goals are. And we already know just from conversation, they've been given this presentation.
And it
as
may
well.
be them, I guess, going to their board more
Right,
so than you.
right.
For
So
the dollars.
they want to then start from where we are and continue to push that forward, but figure out where is best for the coalition to do that.
Yep, I just want to make sure we're working together.
Yes, we definitely
you.
are.
Thank you, Mr. Righeimer. Mr. Weaver.
I just wanted a clarification on your target market.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't quite aware of. Is it just focusing on the kids, on parents, or just everyone at once blitz?
It is everyone. So we have kids down to 3rd grade vaping in school. And fentanyl is showing up in vapes. And that scares us. So you have from kids to, I know that one of the most recent people who passed away was 59 years old. So you can't, it's very difficult to say, I just want to focus on 18 to 25-year-olds or 10 to 15-year-olds. This is a problem that doesn't discriminate by age or any other definition.
And then one more is the school pulse. The schools have agreed to have that available and to man that station or to
Yeah, the
follow up with
the
it?
kids pulse they haven't agreed to yet. All 3 schools are very interested in it and discussing doing it. The school pulse really isn't work for the schools. And just to be clear, it's also an opt-in program. So not everybody has to do it. Parents can decide they do not want their children to participate. But it's an opt-in program. I can tell you that they have a 98% success rate, that 98% of kids stay in. But yes, the schools are discussing right now. They are all 3 very interested.
Okay.
And Hayward already has a report like a cane, and then it's for social and for different issues that you can report on.
Yep.
Mr. Alvarado.
I just want to clarify one of the questions about the funding cycle, how long it is. So the opioid settlement, they're projecting about 12 months, so a year from now. Some of the other money, like the deflection grant, we've been awarded, approved. They actually asked us to resubmit that for a little bit higher dollar amount, but we don't have a cycle. It looks like it probably will come in October, and then we're not sure if it'll be 12 months or through the end of next year. Same thing with the TAD grant for the treatment court. That runs on a calendar year, January, so
Yeah.
roughly through the end of next year is what I would guess.
Mr. Helwig?
So LCO, is that the LCO school board has not approved it yet to be presented in their schools? Is that-
Not yet. So there, I believe there were some people there when the other day when we presented to the in-service teachers, and the principal, Hutchinson, wanted other people to see it and then give her feedback. So we're waiting to find out.
Same thing with Winter? They have not?
Winter, the same. So we actually presented at Winter today. So
Thank
this all happened very fast. This fentanyl awareness team was developed the end of May. And so we have done a lot of work really fast to try to get this up and running.
Okay, we have an action item then. Oh, Ms. Hessel.
I was going to make a motion to approve the action item of opioid funds and amending budget.
Okay, the resolution approving use of opioid settlement funds. Motion by Ms. Hessel, second by Mr. Buckholz to approve. Is there any further discussion? And Mr. Schleter, the Health and Human Services Board approved this along with Finance, Mr. Kinsley?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, Madam Clerk, can you set us up to vote? The motion is to approve the use of opioid settlement funds and amending the budget for such use.
And at a 2/3 majority vote.
Yes.
The voting is, whoops, sorry, I gotta reopen it. Is open.
Okay.
And Mr. Savitsky, please vote.
Yes.
Mr. Maestri. Dale, would you do yours? And Mr. Duffy, yours didn't take either? Would you hit it again, Mr. Duffy? Okay, yours is good now, Mr. Schleter. Okay, we're in. And this motion passes 14-0.
Amen. All right, motion carries. Thank you. Okay, moving on then to number 14, Economic Development UW Extension Committee Chair Report. Mr. Duffy.
That was part of the resolution.
Yep. Thank you, sir. No, that's okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Duffy,
Chairman.
yep.
We met on August 7th, and we first of all had a short report from the Fair Association. They're running from today through Sunday. This is the 116th year for the fair. They discussed with us several of the new attractions this year. After we had our meeting, then we all from the board here have received an email from Andy indicating that today, Thursday, is a family night. It's a free night. There's no gate charge. And also that all of the county employees will be entitled to a free ice cream at the 4-H booth. So if you have nothing on your dance card after the meeting, it might be a good idea to give that a try. Then we had a report from the University of Wisconsin Extension. They are again going to have a cleanup sweep to be held at the fairgrounds here in Hayward on September 13th. They also, through the summer, their staff has taught some grant writing, and their goal was to assist with federal and state funding for local projects. The Hayward Lakes Visitor and Bureau reported that 73% of the travelers in the county are on leisure trips. Lodging represents the largest single expenditure. Second was food and beverage, and third was shopping. Minnesota residents still account for 52% of our visitors, Wisconsin 31%, Illinois 7%, and Iowa 2%. And the report from the Northwest Regional Planning gave us a list of the committed projects, and we here in Hayward or Sawyer County have 8 documented projects from Northwest Regional Planning. We had a library update from both Hayward and Winter. And we had a verbal update from the Motorized Trail Committee. Discover Wisconsin has been in the area this week to highlight the Nelson Lake area. And the Berkey report this month indicated that the lumberjack event was a huge success. They were totally sold out on Saturday and had to turn away a good number of people. The next event is the trail run on September 23rd. The Berkey now has overcome and passed the 9,500 racers for the 50th anniversary, and they're close now to the 10,000 racers signed up for this year's Berkey. Broadband report given by Andy, and he'll cover that in his report. And the Historical Society, lastly, indicated they're working now with LCO to cover the 100th year anniversary of the flooding of the Chippewa Flowage. And further, before winter, they're going to have a sled with a load of logs at their museum to attract customers. And that concludes my report, Mr. Chairman.
All right, Mr. Duffy, thank you. But Mr. Duffy, why does the Berkey cap their skiers at 10,000 now that we spread it out over so many days and there's a race each day?
On Saturday was the championship race, and as you know, they have a new bleachers. It was full. There's just no seats. So I think there's a fire code. You can't have many more than you have seats.
That was for lumberjack, correct?
But it's, yeah.
And why does the Birkebeiner cap it at 10,000 skiers
Oh, they're not
when we
capped.
have multiple days and races?
They can go to, and we'll expect to go to 13,000. And the biggest problem with the Berkey is not the trail. It's wide enough to accommodate more skiers. The biggest problem is the finish on Lake on Hayward. Where do you put all these cars? So somehow, either we have to find more parking, or we have to park the cars out of the area and then bust them in like Stone Lake does for the Cranberry Festival. But that's the problem. The bottleneck is Sunday and Saturday after the race.
Thank you.
Yeah, but it's a lot of skiers, and each skier brings in 1 to 2 people with him. So you take that and multiply it by, 2
Right.
times, 3 times. It's a big number.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Duffy.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes,
if I
sir.
may, with Mr. Duffy's assistance, the fair does have an auction on Saturday at 4 o'clock. Anybody wants to buy some good protein, I do have the weights of all the animals that'll be there. I'm sure you'll bring your checkbook. I think they start at $10 a pound. Thank you.
And you'll be there.
Thank you, Mr. Kinsley. All right, moving on to the number 15, union negotiations, closed session. Entertain a motion to go into closed session. Motion by Mr. Buckholz, second by Mr. Kinsley. Pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851E, deliberating or negotiating the purchasing of public properties, the investing of public funds, or conducting other specified public business, whenever a competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. In addition, the committee will be discussing collective bargaining strategy and thus is excluded from